Hello, hello. Welcome to Your Home by Design, the podcast where we talk all about our homes and how they affect our health and well-being. Some episodes we delve deep into the research and some we just chat. I'm Nico, an interior designer and researcher passionate about bringing forward the findings so that you can improve your lifestyle and well-being. Grateful to have you. Let's do this. Hello. Well, it's been a bit. It's been several weeks since I have published an episode and I've missed you. I just want to say that it was spring break. We had a crazy busy spring break. The kids were off and we had guests and it was great. But unfortunately, when the guests left, I got the flu and then it kind of ran through our house one after the other. And so this week really is the first week we're kind of all back to our normal routines and normal rhythm in our lives. And I have my voice back now and I'm not congested. So all good. Yes, I have missed you and welcome to today's episode. So today's topic, it's a bit of a tough topic. To be honest, it's not a sort of sunshine and roses type topic, but it is an important one. Today, we're going to talk about grief and how your home plays a role in the grieving process. I'm going to look at some of the research on how your home is involved in this process and the ways, the habits, the little rituals people naturally perform in the safety of home during stages of grief. And I'm going to end today's episode talking about how you can design your home to support you during this time. So grief is an internal emotion, but it plays out in how we interact with our spaces. And today's episode is part 1 of grief. Part 1 of 2. Next week, part 2, I'll dive even deeper with a guest who has firsthand experience in grief. We'll be chatting all about the role that their home played and continues to play, the significance, the meaning of home to them. It's going to be a great conversation, so stay tuned for that. Even though it is a tough topic, it's one that I think will provide insight and comfort to those who are navigating grief. And it will also shed some light on one of the deeper meanings of home. So let's get started. So to start, I just want to point out that home is often a place you transform, right? You transform it through interior design choices, which ultimately it transforms you in one way or another. Your home changes, it's enhanced, it evolves, it improves with the choices you make. And that's kind of like this forward motion. You want change in your spaces because ultimately you desire change in your life. And if you listen here, then you're interested in how the design of your home can improve your health and your well-being. It could be that you want to save time or that you feel your home is causing craziness in your life and you want to feel more in control, or you might want your home to help you feel inspired or to just inspire you when you're moving throughout your home. You might want it to motivate you and reflect who you are. So it's sort of this self-expression. And I'm mentioning all of this because this is all sort of like that forward motion stuff. It's all how to improve, make changes, and learn what we need from our home, and then create it to kind of foster what we need. And I find today's topic especially interesting because it's not forward motion per se, in the same way. It's almost more retreating and sort of coming undone. It's more really about allowing your emotions and where you're at to kind of dictate that relationship with space, in a space that you feel comfortable and safe to do that in. And it's kind of to dig a little deeper and to understand what your home represents during times of grief, and how it can become that safe space to kind of let it all out and ride the waves of grief. So for some reason, I keep thinking about that saying, if these walls could talk. I think we've all had those moments where you just come undone. You have that space, that time, that privacy to just let it all out. And grief is one of those things that no matter how much on the outside you might be holding it together, when you have that moment where you feel completely alone, and able to release those emotions without the fear of either like being seen, or you have that moment to yourself and your body suddenly realizes it. And so it responds to it, aloneness, or maybe all the tasks and things to do that often accompanies grief during the early stages doesn't need to be done for that minute. So the waves of grief wash over you. And most of the time, and as I've learned, this happens at home. It happens in the safety of your home. And I want to emphasize the word safety here, because our homes really do signify safety in our lives, especially when we're going through things. If you're going through hard times, if you're experiencing grief, that symbol of safety is often your home. It's that place that you come to, you retreat to, that you feel able to kind of let it all out. So for starters, I just want to say that I am no expert on grief, and I'm not a counselor, I'm not a psychologist, but what I am, and what you probably know, is I'm an interior designer who is fascinated by learning and researching and sharing how home can be used as a tool for your health and your well-being, to focus on making our home beautiful and beneficial. And I don't believe one exists without the other. I think that if we are designing beautiful homes, we need to be intentional about how they benefit us and being selective in those choices. So my hope today is to highlight the role that your home plays during times of grieving, and how important it is to recognize how you move through your grieving within your home. So today I'm going to start with sharing some things I've read recently in how people manage grief. So I read an interesting article that said you should allow yourself the opportunities to grieve. And it talked about how people often have objects or belongings that were loved ones who passed away, and that they often keep them hidden and only sort of take them out when they're sort of ready to grieve, almost like they're going to be intentional about when they are ready or not to grieve and take part in that. And then the article says that the objects often will go back into kind of hiding after. Well, the significance of objects is so important. Telling your story through the objects within your home makes it feel like your home. But not only does it make it feel like you and reflect who you are, but it helps you have a sense of place. Like, this is me. This is my home. You see these objects, you can touch them, and they're linked to aspects of your life. So to have our homes mirror back who we are, where we come from, and who we aspire to be is really important. And this isn't just about the good stuff, right? Grief is a part of life, and it's one of those things and timing and where you are in your grief journey will inform how this is sort of decided, when and how you will either display or hide objects that have significance and have attachments to a loved one. So there seems to be, from what I've researched, some key ways your home plays a role in your grieving. Firstly, your home really does become your sanctuary, a place where you seek solace. It's a place of comfort and it's familiar. Grief can really draw you inwards at times and cause you to really think about your life. So there's self-reflection that takes place, and you might think about what your future holds and what life looks like now. Your dreams and your plans can kind of either be catapulted into some kind of, oh, life is short mentality, time is of the essence. I have to do this now. Or it can just stop you in your tracks and completely change the course of your life altogether. So this reflection that takes place often happens when you are alone in your refuge, a place within the home that can act as almost like a thinking spot. And the comfort of home is really amplified when someone is grieving because it's that familiar place where you get to just be. You can walk in, close that door behind you, and let it all out and just be alone without the demands from the outside world. The sounds and the smells of home can be so comforting during these rough times. Often people are surrounded in their home by family members or friends offering support. And in this case, this is where our home becomes the backdrop to this really crazy time. And I think during this time, when we're surrounded by our family and friends and community, this kind of outpouring of support, really this time only lasts for a short time. You might find that it's the few weeks after a loss or maybe a month. But typically, after a month or two, people, they don't surround you in the same way. It doesn't mean that the support isn't there or the thought and the love isn't there. But I think that this is when, for a lot of people, it really hits home. And I think when you are initially surrounded in those early days and early weeks, that's where you're sort of just going on autopilot. You're feeling a lot of support. People might be carrying you through these really tough times. But once that sort of dissipates a little bit, you really can be left feeling like what your experience is now more or less kind of in your face. And now you might find is really when your home becomes that place of solitude, that place of comfort and refuge. And another key way your home plays a role in your grief is really it can allow you a sense of control. So when your emotions are feeling just, so out of whack and all over, up and down and just hard to grasp, often people find themselves doing things like reorganizing, purging and cleaning, almost to feel that sense of order when those emotions and the events happen that are so out of your control. So, when you might find that all of a sudden you're doing something that you haven't actually forethought, like there was no forethought. You hadn't planned to do it. All of a sudden you find yourself in this activity of reorganizing, or just getting rid of stuff, or just really, really doing deep cleaning. And it's almost this just sort of impulse, this reaction to what's going on inside. And it's that need of controlling something when everything just feels completely out of control. And another thing that can help is routine. You have routines within your home on a day-to-day basis. You can move through often these routines by default, which I think can really help support you and provide a sense of structure. So things like your morning routine, what time you wake up, what do you do when you first get out of bed? Do you make coffee with your favorite mug? Do you sit in your favorite spot and look out the window, really trying to honor certain routines, even, if you have a bedtime routine, trying to keep that consistency and that familiarity and comfort that routines often give us, and when we maintain our homes, it can help with mental clarity. So even just simple things like just keeping up with your cleaning schedule, even having a routine where you meet up with someone or have someone over, and you get ready before you leave the house or they arrive. Simple things like this, just to just give you that sense of structure in your day, and just, I guess, predictability. That's another important thing, is when you can predict what's next. I think that it can help in that grieving process. And some of these things can only happen after a period of time. Depending on the loss, it can be hard to have routine and structure or normal type of routine and structure, because life can be completely derailed during these times. And another key thing I think it is important to mention is the role that art and creativity can have in your healing. Art can activate areas in the brain that allow for processing and the release of emotions, which allows you essentially to speak without speaking. So often the act of expressing yourself through art is easier to do than verbalizing how you feel and expressing your emotions through that. Art is often used as a tool in grief and trauma. So exploring this could really help you during the time of grief. The last thing I want to mention before I get into how you can design your home to support you during grief is the idea that grief changes. It evolves, it subsides, or it can come back in waves. And the timing of it is unpredictable. And how you respond to it is something that you can only deal with at that point in time. It's different from person to person. So the way your home can support you, it might come down to recognizing what you need in that particular season of grief, and to set it up to support you in what you need. So even though I mentioned some really key things that you can do in your home to support you during grief, it might be that you think about the ways that might be best for you, and as the waves of grief come and go, you've kind of got those things in place and ready for you at whatever stage of grief you're in. So how can you design a home that supports you in the many stages and seasons? Well, firstly, creating a home that is a tool in the grieving process is really about creating spaces that foster the stages of grief. So in a way, you almost want to choose some of these almost preemptively, or even if you're listening and you're not in the grieving process, it's still really about creating a holistic home that addresses all of your needs and seasons of life. So fortunately, the things I'm going to share are things that would be good to incorporate regardless of if you're grieving or you're not, or you're just interested in listening anyway. But rooms that promote reflection, connection, comfort, creative outlets, and emotional well-being. Okay, I'm going to share 7 that can do this. So the first one is comfort, right? I mean, you want a room that welcomes you, that is cozy and textural. And when you think of a relaxing space, for you, what color comes to mind? Is it light and bright but moody with candles and dim lighting? Or is it more deep tones and ambient lighting? So, no matter what your decor or style is, you can still bring in elements that make it feel super cozy. So things like toss blankets or adding dimmers to your lighting. And keep in mind that you may have designated areas where you want it to feel cozy because you're drawn to that room or that spot on the sofa. Whatever it is, comfort and coziness during these times can be really helpful. Number 2, when we talk about how grief has stages, creating flexible room layouts that can adapt to what stage you're in. So think about how you can use the space as almost a multi-purpose area. So one that allows for guests and socializing, and to support your needs when you're alone in that room, to even a room that allows for creative reflection and expression, because, as we know, art can be so healing. So if you are creating something or just even appreciating art that you have on your walls, but definitely an area, if it's a multi-purpose space, that can be a place you go that's set up for how you need it at that moment in time. Number 3 is quiet zones. If you need to retreat and reflect, if you live with others, where can you do this without noise and distraction? Or maybe there's other people in the home that are also grieving. Do they have a place to go to have solitude? It could be that you change a room designation to be a quiet zone for a time that you need it to. Perhaps it's a room with a door on it, so you or others can go there and it's set up for quiet reflection and grieving in a private space. So say you have an office that you're not using, or a spare bedroom that you're not using, or a guest room that doesn't get used all the time. Really think about just changing the designation and saying, what, for this time, this stage in our life, we need this particular area to be just a quiet zone where we get to come here and close the door and just allow our emotions to just play out as they will. And number 4 is personalizing your spaces to speak to you and to include memorabilia and mementos that honor the memory of a loved one. So this can be done with things like framed photography, or, if you have a special photograph of the person, or displaying special objects in a way where you notice them and you can really appreciate them. And it's not to say that, you should fill a room with all of their belongings, but to be really selective with a few that are just really special to you. If this is a way, that might help you, just really creating those special moments where you can go and look, pick up, touch, feel, whatever it is, and just feel connected to that person. Number 5 is being connected to nature. So you may have heard of biophilic design, but basically it's just having plants inside or natural materials, even a little water feature that you can hear. Just really thinking about how to connect to nature to promote tranquility and relaxation and that sense of calm. Even things like natural light. Can you put a chair in front of a window that has a view of a beautiful tree? Or can you open up your drapery and let that sunshine in? It's really, really important to support, a positive mood and your emotional well-being. So number 6 is scents and sounds. Scents are one of those things that can really have a calming and relaxing effect on us. You can use scents in diffusers, so aromatherapy oils, or you can get candles with amazing scents, incense, but particularly smells like lavender and rose and sandalwood. Those are a few of the ones that are sort of known to have a relaxing effect on us, but scents are very personal, so you should definitely explore which ones have that effect on you. And there are a lot of different oil blends as well. Yeah, and then music. Music is said to calm the nervous system. So having music on in the background while you are reflecting or while expressing yourself creatively, classical music, nature sounds, there's ambient music, there's acoustic music. These are just a few. There's a lot of really relaxing music out there that can help calm your nervous system. And number 7 is creating an area where you can engage in creative expression. So designating a writing spot or a place to paint, even if you're not a painter. And I know I mentioned this earlier, but expressing yourself is such an amazing thing to do because we can often express ourselves through creativity as opposed to through words, as I mentioned. And of course, surrounding yourself with art that you love and being intentional about looking at it and sort of getting lost in it. I think that's important as we move through the stages of grief because as you look at something and you can see the positive in it, or it can cause reflection and contemplation and all of these things that can just help you in your journey in the phases of grieving. So as I wrap up today's episode, if you are in this season, just take heart that your home is your sanctuary, and how you respond to grief within its walls is a personal experience and one that you can't predict. The timing of when the waves of grief hit you is something that will come and go. And I hope you consider how you can make design choices to support you and to help you move through the stages and waves of grief. Thank you for listening to today's episode, and make sure to listen to next week's part 2, where I get to chat with someone who has experienced this firsthand and who can share her journey and insight into how her home played a role during this time. Thanks so much for listening today. If you found this episode helpful, the best way to support the show is to follow along and share it with someone who'd love it too. And if you'd like to go a step further, you can become one of our Better Living backers. It's a small monthly contribution that helps keep the show going. And as a thank you, I'll send you a personal note along with a 15% discount for the Create Space course when it launches. You can find the Support the Show link right in the show notes. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for creating space with me.